Hey guys, tonight we are going to travel back to a time and a place where status was everything, and the whitest, most impressive piece of clothing you could own was cleaned using something you'd probably rather not think about. We're headed to ancient Rome to uncover the surprisingly pungent secret behind their dazzlingly white Togas. Now, a brief but friendly warning. You, with your memory foam mattress and your climate control and your indoor plumbing, you probably wouldn't survive this. Not for long, anyway. Life in ancient Rome was, to put it mildly, robust. It was loud, it was crowded, and it was magnificently smelly. But for tonight, you're built for it. You're ready, so, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support is what keeps these sleepy journeys into the past going. And while you're at it, I'd love to know where you're listening from and what time it is. It's always so interesting to see where everyone is settling in for the night. Now. Dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you become aware of is not a sight, but a feeling. The air is cool on your face, carrying a faint, earthy scent of damp stone and something herbal, like rosemary from a nearby kitchen. There is no gentle chime of a digital alarm, no buzzing phone on a nightstand. Your alarm clock is a distant rooster with what sounds like a personal grudge against the dawn, and the steadily growing murmur of a city waking up. You are lying on a simple wooden bed frame, a mattress stuffed with straw or wool beneath you. It's not uncomfortable, exactly, but it has none of the soft, yielding forgiveness of a modern bed. It's a place for sleep, and nothing more. You open your eyes. The room is small, and the light is soft, filtering in not from a window, but from the doorway, which is covered by a heavy wool curtain. This is your cubiculum, your sleeping chamber. The walls are a deep, calming ochre, decorated with a simple fresco of birds perched on a thin, looping vine. Roman interior design, at least for a bedroom, is best described as functional cave. There is your bed, a small wooden chest for your tunic and sandals, and a single oil lamp on a three-legged stool. That's it. No clutter. No distractions. Just a quiet, dark space to retreat from the vibrant chaos of the house. You swing your legs over the side of the bed, and your bare feet meet the cold, smooth tiles of the mosaic floor. The chill is immediate, waking you up more effectively than any shot of espresso. You can feel the intricate pattern of tiny stones under your solessa, swirling geometric design that feels like a cool, stony map beneath your feet. You stand, stretching your arms above your head, the rough linen of your sleeping shift scraping lightly against your skin. Pushing aside the heavy curtain. You step out of the darkness of your room and into the soft light of the atrium. This is the heart of your family's domus, or home. It's a grand open-air reception hall, and the first thing you notice is the sky. High above, a large rectangular opening in the roof, the compluvium, reveals a perfect square of the slowly brightening Italian sky. Directly below it, set into the floor, is a matching shallow pool, the impluvium, designed to catch the rainwater that is so precious in this climate. This morning, the water is still, perfectly mirroring the pale blue above. The gentle, rhythmic plink, plink of leftover dew dripping from the roof tiles into the pool is the only sound in the vast, quiet space. Your father is standing there, his back to you, observing the household shrine built into the wall. It's the lararium, home to the spirits that protect your family. He makes a small offering of salted flour, his movements slow and deliberate in the morning quiet. He must have heard you, because without turning, he speaks. His voice is calm, echoing slightly in the large room. Today is the day, he says, the day we begin. You know exactly what he means. For weeks, the conversation has revolved around this. You have reached the age or thereabouts, where you must put aside the clothes of a boy and assume the responsibilities of a Roman citizen, and the ultimate symbol of that citizenship. The one thing that separates a man from a boy, a citizen from a foreigner, is the toga. Specifically, the pure, unadorned, dazzlingly white toga virilis, the toga of manhood. It's a rite of passage every Roman boy of your standing goes through. Historians still wonder about the precise timing. For some it was 14, for others 16, often aligned with the spring festival of Lib. For you, it is simply now. The time feels right. Asterisk, your father turns a gentle smile on his face. A man's first toga is a serious matter, he says, walking toward you. It is not just a garment. It is a message to the world. It says you are here. It says you belong to Rome, and it must be perfect. He claps a hand on your shoulder. Perfection, however, does not begin in the marketplace. It begins in the countryside, with the finest wool. We have a long day ahead. Asterisk, but first, breakfast. You follow him into a smaller dining room, the triclinium, where a simple meal is laid out on a low table. There is no towering stack of pancakes, no sugary cereal. Breakfast is bread, a dense, rustic loafa, small bowl of olives, some hard cheese, and a cup of water mixed with a splash of wine. It is fuel, not an event. You sit on a couch, propped on your elbow in the Roman style, and eat in silence, the reality of the day settling in. You are going to get your toga, this enormous, unwieldy, and notoriously difficult to wear sheet of wool is going to be yours. It's the key to your future, to participating in public life, to being seen as a man. And as your father just said, it has to be perfect. The journey to that perfection starts not with a tailor, but with a sheep, and that means leaving the familiar noise of the city behind, and heading out to where the air is cleaner and the grass is greener. Your father leads you out of the quiet sanctuary of the atrium, and the moment you step onto the street, the city hits you like a wave. The soft, dripping peace of the impluvium is instantly replaced by the vibrant, chaotic symphony of Rome. The street is narrow, paved with uneven, gray cobblestones that are already slick with something you decide not to look at too closely. Towering on either side are the insulae, the colossal apartment blocks that house the majority of Rome's population. They lean in towards each other, their upper stories seeming to almost touch, casting the street in a perpetual, grimy twilight. Laundry hangs from wooden balconies like prayer flags, dripping onto the heads of unsuspecting passersby below. It's a good rule of thumb in Rome to never look up with your mouth open. Asterisk, the air itself is a thick soup of smells. You can pick out the rich, comforting scent of bread baking in a communal oven just a few doors down, but it's mixed with the sharp temps of charcoal smoke from a blacksmith's forge. The unmistakable ammonia from a nearby laundry, a smell you'll become much more familiar with soon, and the general, all-pervading aroma of a million people living very, very close together. It's not pleasant, but it's the smell of life, the smell of home. Asterisk, the noise is relentless. A vendor is shouting about the quality of his figs, his voice a hoarse rasp. A legion of sandals slaps against the stones. Somewhere, a hammer clangs against metal in a steady, rhythmic beat. A cart, its wooden wheels groaning under the weight of amphorae filled with wine, rumbles past, pulled by a mule who looks as tired of this as everyone else. Daytime wheeled traffic is technically banned within the city center to prevent total gridlock, a historical fact proving that. Traffic jams are not a modern invention, but it's early, and the rules are always a little flexible. Asterisk, you and your father joined the river of people, moving with a purpose that many others seem to lack. You are not headed for the forum or the markets today. You are headed out. You navigate the winding alleys and sudden, sun-drenched squares, your path guided by an instinct born of a lifetime spent in these streets. Finally, you reach one of the city's great gates. a massive stone archway set into the towering Servian wall. This is the threshold between your world and the world beyond. Asterisk. Passing through the gate is like stepping through a portal. The dense, concentrated energy of the city seems to dissolve behind you. The noise fades to a distant hum. The air clears, losing its smoky urban edge and taking on the fresh, green scent of the countryside. Before you lies one of Rome's great arteries, a via, a road. It is not a meandering dirt track, but a masterpiece of engineering. It is wide, paved with large, tightly fitted polygonal stones, and it runs in an almost impossibly straight line toward the horizon. This road and others like it are the veins of the empire, carrying soldiers, goods, and messages from the heart of Rome to its farthest reaches. Asterisk, a simple, two-wheeled cart pulled by a sturdy, placid-looking ox is waiting for you, tended by one of your family's servants. Your father nods to the man, and you climb aboard, settling onto a rough-hewn wooden bench. With a soft word and a gentle flick of a switch, the ox begins to plod forward, its pace unhurried and steady. The rhythmic clop-clop of its hooves on the stone and the gentle, hypnotic creak of the cart's axle become the new soundtrack to your journey. Asterisk, you lean back, watching the sprawling suburbs of Rome slowly give way to a more orderly, cultivated landscape. You pass by the grand villas of the wealthy, their terracotta roofs peeking out from behind screens of tall, elegant cypress trees. You see plots of land dedicated to market gardens, growing the vegetables that will be sold in the city's markets by tomorrow morning. Every so often, you pass a stone pillar on the side of the road, a milarium, or milestone. It's a wonderfully simple, yet brilliant, piece of infrastructure. Each one tells a traveler exactly how far they are from the golden milestone in the Forum, the symbolic center of the world. It's a small, reassuring reminder that no matter how far you travel, all roads truly do lead to Rome. Asterisk, the further you get from the city, the more the landscape softens into the rolling hills of Etruria, the region we would one day call Tuscany. The fields are a patchwork of deep green and dusty brown. Gnarled olive groves shimmer with silver-green leaves under the morning sun, and rows upon rows of grapevines cling to the gentle slopes, their leaves still a vibrant green. Historians still debate how the average Roman perceived this landscape. Did they see the sublime beauty in the way the light fell across a valley, or was it simply a practical assessment of agricultural real estate? It's hard to know if they would have pulled over to take a picture, so to speak, or if they just saw potential for a good harvest of olives. Asterisk for you, in this moment, it is simply peaceful. The sun is warm on your face, and a gentle breeze carries the scent of wild thyme and dry earth. The relentless energy of the city feels a lifetime away. Here, the world moves at the pace of a plodding ox. It's a slow, gentle rhythm that allows your mind to wander. The grand task ahead, the Toga, feels less like a burden and more like a natural next step, as inevitable and unhurried as the journey itself. After another hour, the cart turns off the main road, leaving the smooth paving stones for a smaller, dusty track that winds up into the hills. The creaking of the wheels is softer now, muffled by the dirt, and then you hear it, a faint, distant bleating, the sound of a flock of sheep. You have arrived. The cart comes to a gentle stop at the crest of a low hill. Your father steps down, and you follow, your legs a little stiff from the ride. The air up here is different, thinner, cleaner, and filled with the warm, grassy scent of sun-baked earth. Below you, the valley unfolds into a soft, rolling landscape that seems almost painted, and spread across it, like a slow-moving fluffy white cloud, is the flock. There are hundreds of them. The sound you heard from a distance is now a constant, gentle chorus of bleats, mumbles, and the soft, percussive noise of countless hooves on dry ground. It's not an unpleasant sound. It's the sound of pastoral life, a peaceful, living hum. Asterisk, a man detaches himself from the flock and walks up the hill to meet you. He is the shepherd, His face is a roadmap of his life, tanned and creased by decades of Italian sun and wind. He wears a simple tunic of undyed brownish wool and carries a long, smooth wooden staff. He greets your father not with a formal Roman salute, but with a familiar nod. They exchange a few quiet words about the weather, the health of the flock, the quality of the grazing this season. This is business, but it's conducted at the pace of the countryside, without the brusque efficiency of the city. Asterisk, you walk down the slope together, and the flock parts around you like water around a stone. The sheep are, well, they're sheep, but they seem a little different from the ones you might imagine. Historians debate the exact breeds the Romans cultivated, but these are clearly the result of careful, centuries-old animal husbandry. They are not scruffy or wild-looking. Their bodies are stout, their legs are sturdy, and their fleece is astonishingly thick and dense. This is not just any flock. This is a flock bred for one purpose, to produce the raw material for the finest garments in the world. Asterisk, as you get closer, you notice something truly peculiar. Some of the sheep, the ones with the most magnificent, whitest-looking wool, are wearing little jackets. They are simple coats, really, made of stitched hides, covering their backs and sides. Your father sees you staring and offers a quiet explanation. Those are the prize ewes, he murmurs. The coats, the tegumenta, protect their fleece. It's a wonderfully absurd image, pampered sheep in tailor-made outfits. The coats keep the wool from getting tangled in thorny bushes and, most importantly, they keep it clean. This is the first secret to a dazzlingly white toga. Don't let it get dirty in the first place. It's an incredibly labor-intensive practice, but for the Roman elite, no expense was spared in the pursuit of sartorial perfection, even if it meant dressing up livestock. Asterisk, the shepherd leads you to a small, shaded area under a sprawling oak tree, where the shearing is taking place. There is no buzzing electric razor, no noisy machinery. Two men are working quietly and methodically. One of them gently catches a sheep, holding it steady between his knees, murmuring soft, calming sounds to it. The animal seems surprisingly placid, as if this is a familiar routine. The other man holds a pair of iron shears. They look like two daggers connected at the handle by a springy U-shaped bow. This is the forfex, a tool that has been used for this task for centuries. Asterisk, the shearing begins. There is no frantic haste. It's a slow, rhythmic dance. The shearer starts at the neck, the iron blades making a steady asterisk snip. Snip, snip asterisk sound as they work their way through the dense wool. The sound is crisp and satisfying, like cutting through thick parchment. The blades stay close to the skin, but the shearer's movements are so practiced and precise that the sheep is never harmed. He works in long, fluid strokes, and the fleece begins to peel away from the animal in one continuous, unbroken blanket. It's a testament to incredible skill. It has to be done perfectly. A second cut in the same spot would create short, unusable fibers, ruining the quality of the wool. Asterisk, when the shearer is finished, he holds up the result. It's the entire fleece, a single, magnificent piece of raw material, held together by the natural crimp and grease of the fibers. The newly shorn sheep, looking suddenly much smaller and rather naked, gives a little shake and trots off to rejoin the flock, seemingly unbothered by its sudden haircut. The shepherd takes the fleece and brings it over to you and your father. He lays it out on a clean canvas sheet. The best of the flock, he says with quiet pride. Asterisk, your father gestures for you to touch it. You kneel down and press your hand into the wool. The reality of it is surprising. You were expecting something soft and fluffy, like a finished blanket, but this is dense, heavy, and distinctly greasy to the touch. The stickiness is lanolin, the natural oil produced by the sheep to protect its wool from the rain. It has a unique, slightly musky, but not unpleasant smell, the smell of a living animal. And it is this lanolin-rich raw fleece that will be transformed into your toga. Hidden within this greasy yellowish mass is the potential for the purest, most brilliant white. Asterisk, your father pays the shepherd, a transaction sealed not with a handshake, but with a shared look of mutual respect and a clink of coins. A servant carefully rolls up the heavy fleece and another one from a second prize away, wrapping them in the canvas to be loaded onto the cart. This is where it begins, your father says, his eyes on the flock grazing peacefully in the valley, with the best sheep, the best grass, and the best care. The toga is not made in the city. It is born out here. You stand there for a moment, the snip 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 of the shears continuing its steady rhythm behind you, and you understand. Your toga is not just a piece of clothing. It is a product of the land, of ancient traditions, and of some very well-dressed sheep. The journey back toward Rome feels different. The sun is higher in the sky now, casting shorter shadows on the road. The gentle creaking of the cart is the same, the plodding pace of the ox unchanged, but your perspective has shifted. Tucked away in the back of the cart are the two heavy, greasy fleeces, the raw potential for your future. They don't look like much now, but they represent the first tangible step in your transformation. You're no longer just a boy going on a trip with his father. You're a soon-to-be citizen, returning with the essential raw material for his new identity. Asterisk, you don't go all the way back into the heart of the city. Instead, your father directs the servant to a district on the outskirts, a place where the air is filled with the sounds of workshops rather than market stalls. This is where the skilled artisans live and work, the people who turn the raw products of the countryside into the finished goods of the empire. The cart pulls up in front of a modest building, its plaster walls stained with years of work. From inside, you can hear a low humming sound and the rhythmic clatter of wood on wood. This is a workshop dedicated to the first stage of textile production. Asterisk, you enter a large, open-air courtyard behind the main building. The first thing you notice is the smell. It's a pungent animal scent, the concentrated aroma of countless unwashed fleeces, mingled with the sharp, almost chemical odor of stale urine. Your nose wrinkles. This, your father explains, with a hint of amusement, is the smell of progress. Before the wool can be spun, it must be scoured. The lanolin, the dirt, the bits of dried leaves, it all has to go. And the Roman secret to cutting through that heavy grease was a potent detergent, aged urine. Large clay pots, or dolia, are set into the floor of the courtyard, collecting this valuable resource from public latrines. A lesser-known historical detail is that the Emperor Vespasian famously placed a tax on the urine trade, leading to the phrase, pecunia non alet, money does not stink. Standing here, you might beg to differ. Asterisk, workers, their tunics hitched up to their knees, are treading the wool in vats of this warm, ammoniated water. Their bare feet stomping up and down in a practiced, squelching rhythm. It's a grimy, smelly, but incredibly effective process. The ammonia acts as a powerful degreasing agent, stripping the lanolin and dirt from the fibers. After the scouring, the wool is rinsed repeatedly in fresh, clean water drawn from a nearby aqueduct, washed until all traces of its cleaning solution are gone, and it hangs in clean, damp, yellowish-white clumps. The cleaned wool is then laid out to dry on large wicker frames in the sun. Once dry, it's brought inside to the main workshop, a long, airy room where a group of women are sitting on low stools. This is where the next, more delicate, stage of the process begins, carding. Each woman has a pair of flat wooden paddles, the faces of which are covered with hooked metal teeth, like a brush for a giant. They take a handful of the clean, dry wool and place it between the two carders. With a practiced, rhythmic motion, they brush the wool between the two sets of teeth. Scrape, scrape, scrape. The sound is soft and repetitive. This process teases apart the tangled clumps, aligning all the individual fibers in the same direction, transforming the matted mess into a light, airy, cloud-like mass called a roving. It's a slow, meditative task, and the women work with an easy, focused grace. Your fleece is handed over, to the Lanafex asterisk, the master of the workshop. He inspects it with a critical eye, nodding in approval at its quality. He hands a portion of the freshly carded wool to one of the spinners. And here, you witness a kind of everyday magic. The spinner, an older woman with nimble, wrinkled fingers, takes a sliver of the fluffy roving. In one hand, she holds a distafa short staff, on which the bulk of the carded wool is loosely wound. In the other, she holds a spindella slender, tapered piece of wood, weighted at the bottom with a clay or stone whorl. Asterisk, she teases out a few fibers from the distaff, twists them together with her fingers to form a leader thread, and attaches it to the spindle. Then, with a deft flick of her wrist, she sets the spindle spinning like a top. As it spins, it twists the fibers, pulling more from the distaff, drafting them into a continuous, strong thread. Her left hand controls the supply of fibers. Her right hand keeps the spindle in motion. It's a constant, fluid dance of fingers and tools. The thread seems to emerge from the cloud of wool, as if by magic, thinning and tightening into a surprisingly strong yarn. Historians often debate the efficiency of ancient labor. But watching this, you realize that true mastery doesn't always require machines. The spinner's hands move with a speed and precision that is mesmerizing. She can control the thickness of the yarn with incredible accuracy, ensuring it is perfectly uniform for the weaver. Asterisk, you watch for a long time, lulled by the gentle scraping of the carders and the soft whirring of the spindles. The air in here is warm and smells faintly of lanolin and clean woola. Huge improvement over the courtyard. The women work together, some chatting quietly, others lost in the rhythm of their craft. This is a communal activity, a skill passed down through generations. A young girl sits beside one of the spinners, practicing with her own small spindle, her brow furrowed in concentration as she tries to master the subtle twist and pull of the fibers. Asterisk, your father allows you to stay, to see your precious fleece begin its transformation from a greasy, matted sheep's coat to clean, fluffy clouds of fiber, and now, inch by inch, into long, strong threads of yarn, wound neatly onto the spinning spindle. It's a process of purification and ordering, taking something raw and chaotic and giving it structure and purpose. As you finally leave the workshop, the sounds of scraping and worry follow you out into the street. The next time you see your wool, it will no longer be a collection of threads. It will be cloth. More time has passed. The seasons have begun to turn, the intense heat of summer softening into the golden light of early autumn. Word has arrived from the weaver. The cloth is finished. The monumental task of transforming thousands of individual threads into a single, massive piece of fabric is complete. But your toga is not yet ready. It is still just a colossal bolt of off-white, slightly rough woolen cloth. Before it can be worn, it must undergo its final, and most crucial, transformation. It must be finished. And that means a trip to one of the most curious and pungent workshops in all of Rome. The Falonica, asterisk, you and your father walk to a different district this time. One you can smell long before you see it. The air is thick with the sharp, unmistakable temps of ammonia, steam, and damp wool. It's the scent of industrial-scale laundry, Roman style. You arrive at the Falonica, a workshop of the Falones, or these are the craftsmen responsible for scouring, bleaching, and finishing newly woven textiles, as well as laundering the soiled garments of Rome's elite. It's a vital, if not particularly glamorous, trade. Asterisk, the workshop is a hive of activity, a maze of stone vats, drying racks, and strange-looking equipment. The floor is perpetually damp, and the air is humid with steam rising from basins of hot water. Workers, mostly men and boys with their tunics tucked high, move about with a practiced efficiency, their bare feet slapping on the wet stone. It's a loud, steamy, and overwhelmingly smelly environment. Your father seems unfazed, navigating the chaotic space with the confidence of a regular customer. Asterisk, He leads you to the back of the workshop, where your bolt of cloth is waiting. It is draped over a wooden beam, looking immense and, well, a bit drab. It is yellowish, the natural color of the wool, and its texture is still fuzzy and uneven from the loom. It looks like a giant, unfinished blanket. A burly man with a cheerful, sweat-sheened face greets your father. This is the master fuller, the fullo. He runs a hand over your cloth, his expert fingers assessing the weave and the weight. A fine piece, he says, his voice booming over the noise of the workshop. Very fine. It will finish beautifully. Asterisk, he explains the first step. The cloth must be scoured once more to remove any remaining lanolin, dirt from the weaving process, and loose fibers. This is the fulling process, and it's where the workshop gets its name. He leads you over to a series of circular stone vats, like small, sunken tubs, built directly into the floor. These are the treading stalls. Your cloth will be placed in one of these vats, submerged in a mixture of water and a scouring agent. And that scouring agent, you see with a dawning sense of olfactory dread, is the same one you encountered at the spinners. Workshop, aged human urine. Asterisk, the fuller explains it with the casual air of a master craftsman discussing a trade secret. The alkaline properties of the ammonia in the urine are perfect for cleansing and thickening the wool. It's a historical fact that fullers were the backbone of the Roman textile industry, and their work was powered by this endlessly renewable, if deeply unpleasant, resource. Large clay jars for its collection were placed on street corners, and passers-by were encouraged to contribute. It was civic duty, of a sort. Asterisk, workers will stand in the vats for hours, stomping on the cloth with their bare feet. This agitation does two things. First, it cleans the fabric thoroughly. Second, the combination of moisture, heat, friction, and alkalinity causes the wool fibers to felt. The individual threads of the weave will mat together, shrinking and thickening the cloth, making it denser, warmer, and more durable. It closes up any tiny gaps in the weave, creating a smooth, uniform surface. This is the key to giving the toga its characteristic heavy drape and resistance to fraying. It's a process that requires stamina and a certain resilience to the working conditions. Asterisk. One of the great unanswered questions for historians is just how the Romans managed the public health aspects of these workshops. Were the workers immune to the constant exposure to ammonia and waste, or was it simply considered an acceptable hazard of the job? Looking at the men stomping away, their faces beaded with sweat, you can only assume it was the latter. It's a tough, smelly, but absolutely essential job. Asterisk, the fuller then points to another piece of equipment. It looks like a giant wicker cage, standing in a corner of the courtyard. After the fulling and rinsing, he bellows over the noise. Comes the whitening. That is where the real art lies. He gestures towards your yellowish cloth. Any fullo can clean a tunic, but to turn that into the white of a senator's toga, that requires sulfur. Asterisk. He leads you away from the stomping vats, toward a quieter corner of the workshop. He explains that after your cloth has been fulled, rinsed within an inch of its life, and is still damp, it will be stretched over that wicker frame. A pot of burning sulfur will be placed underneath. The rising sulfur dioxide fumes will permeate the damp wool, acting as a powerful bleaching agent. This chemical process strips the remaining yellow pigment from the fibers, turning the cloth a brilliant, almost startling, white. It's the final chemical bath, the secret ingredient that creates the dazzling effect every aspiring Roman citizen craves. Asterisk, you stand there, taking it all in. The steamy air, the stomping feet, the giant bird cage for smoking clothes. It's a world away from the peaceful, sun-drenched hills where the wool was first sheared. This is the industrial, chemical, and profoundly smelly heart of the process. Your toga is about to be trodden in urine and choked in sulfur fumes. And somehow, through this strange and punishing ordeal, it will emerge perfect. The master fuller claps his hands together, a sharp sound that cuts through the general din of the workshop. Two young sinewy workers immediately abandon their task of scrubbing a stained tunic and come over. With a nod from their master, they each take an end of your heavy bolt of wool. You watch as they heave it off the beam. The sheer mass of it is impressive. It takes both of them to carry it, the fabric sagging in the middle like a captured cloud. They move with practiced ease over to one of the empty, sunken treading stalls you saw earlier. With a coordinated grunt, they drop the cloth into the stone basin. It lands with a soft, dense thump. Asterisk, now comes the part you've been intellectually prepared for, but are perhaps not quite ready to witness. Another worker approaches, carrying a large clay amp. He tips it over the side of the vat, and a gurgling stream of golden, slightly frothy liquid pours out, splashing onto the wool. The sharp, almost metallic tang of ammonia, an odor you are becoming unwillingly accustomed to, floods the air around you. This is it, the pungent secret, in all its glory. Not just a sprinkle, but a deluge, enough to thoroughly saturate every fiber of your future garment. The fuller might as well be adding soap to a wash basin, for all the ceremony he gives it. To him, this isn't disgusting. It's just detergent. Asterisk. The two young workers hitch their tunics even higher, securing them with leather belts, and then step into the vat, their bare feet sinking into the submerged wool. And then they begin to march. It's not a frantic stomping, but a steady, relentless treading, like men treading grapes to make wine. But this is a vintage you would not want to sample. They lift their knees high, their feet pressing down, their weight working the ammoniated liquid deep into the fabric. Squish, splash, squelch. The sounds are wet and monotonous. They hold on to a wooden rail that runs along the wall for balance, their bodies moving in a synchronized, almost meditative rhythm. Asterisk, you can't help but feel a strange mix of fascination and mild horror. This is the ancient Roman version of a heavy-duty wash cycle. The constant friction of their feet against the wool, combined with the chemical action of the liquid, is what thickens and cleanses the cloth. Your father, noticing your expression, leans in and murmurs. The Falones are a powerful guild, one of the most important in Rome. Everyone needs them. Senators, merchants, even the emperor. Without them, the city would grind to a halt in a pile of dirty laundry. It's a sobering thought. These men, engaged in what seems like the most unpleasant job imaginable, are the silent engines of Roman public presentation. Asterisk, as you watch, the master fuller takes a scoop of a fine pale gray powder from a nearby sack and tosses it into the vat. Fuller's earth, your father explains. It's a type of clay, known for its ability to absorb oils and impurities. This is a quirky, lesser-known detail of the process. The Romans had discovered that this specific kind of clayhydrous aluminum silicate, for the geologically inclined, was a natural degree. It worked in concert with the urine, creating a potent cleaning slurry that could lift even the most stubborn grime from the wool. The liquid in the vat is now a murky, churning soup. Asterisk. The workers continue their relentless march. For them, this is just another Tuesday. They chat to each other as they work, their voices easy and relaxed, seemingly oblivious to the environment. It makes you wonder. Historians still debate the social standing of the Fullers. Were they looked down upon for their odorous profession, or were they respected as essential, skilled artisans? Perhaps the truth is somewhere in between. Maybe for the Romans, practicality simply trumped any sense of squeamishness. A job needed doing, and this was how you did it. There was no shame in it, only the satisfaction of a craft well practiced. Asterisk. Hours seem to pass. The rhythm of the stomping becomes part of the background noise of the workshop, as constant as the hiss of steam and the chatter of workers. Finally, the master fuller approaches the vat and signals for the men to stop. They climb out, their legs and feet dripping, using long wooden poles. They levered the sodden mass of wool out of the stall and into a large rinsing basin, which is being flooded with a constant stream of fresh, clean water from a small aqueduct channel. The cloth is sloshed and turned, washed and washed again, until the water finally runs clear, and all traces of its pungent cleaning bath are gone. Asterisk. 2 workers then haul the fabric from the rinsing pool. It is incredibly heavy now, saturated with water. They lay it out on a large, clean stone slab. The transformation is remarkable. The cloth is no longer a collection of visible threads, but a single, unified fabric. The felting process has worked its magic. It is denser, thicker, and has a smoother, more uniform surface. The color is cleaner too, a pale cream instead of a dingy yellow. But it is not yet the brilliant, dazzling white you are seeking. It is clean, but it is not yet pure. For that it needs its final trial, the trial by smoke. The fuller inspects the cloth one last time, then nods. The workers begin to carry it, dripping toward the strange, domed wicker cage in the courtyard. The workers carry the massive, dripping sheet of fulled cloth out into the open courtyard. The bright Mediterranean sun hits it, making the damp wool steam slightly in the cool autumn air. They move toward the strange, bell-shaped wicker frame you saw earlier. It's about 7 feet tall, a skeletal dome woven from thick, sturdy reeds, looking like a giant, upside-down basket. With practiced effort, they hoist the heavy cloth and drape it carefully over the entire frame, arranging the folds so that the material hangs evenly all the way around, almost to the ground. Your Toga tubi is now a ghostly white tent in the middle of the bustling workshop. Asterisk, the master fuller himself, oversees this next, delicate stage. He disappears for a moment and returns with a small, shallow, ceramic bowl. Inside, a small pile of lumpy yellow crystals gives off a faint, sharp smell, like a struck match. This is raw sulfur, mined from the volcanic regions of Italy and Sicily. It is the key to the final, almost magical, step in the whitening process. He places the bowl on a stone block directly on the ground in the center of the wicker frame, then carefully lifts one edge of the damp woolen tent to slide it underneath. Asterisk with a piece of flint and steel. He strikes a spark onto a small bit of tinder, which he uses to light a charcoal briquette. Once the charcoal is glowing red, he uses a pair of small tongs to drop it into the bowl of sulfur. There is no dramatic flash or bang. Instead, the yellow crystals begin to melt and then smolder, releasing a thick, acrid, bluish-white smoke. The smell is instantly recognizable and deeply unpleasant. The choking, eye-watering stench of sulfur dioxide. The fuller quickly drops the edge of the cloth, trapping the fumes inside. Asterisk, the smoke immediately begins to fill the space within the frame. A ghostly cloud billowing up and around, unable to escape through the damp, heavy wool. The cloth acts as a containment chamber. You watch as the thick fumes permeate the fibers. This isn't just a cosmetic treatment, it's a chemical reaction. The sulfur dioxide gas is a powerful reducing agent. It reacts with the natural yellowish pigments, the carotenoids still present in the wool, breaking down their chemical bonds and rendering them colorless. It is, in effect, chemically bleaching the fabric from the inside out. Asterisk, your father explains that this process, called stoving, has to be carefully controlled. Too little smoke, and the toga won't be truly white. Too much, or if the cloth is allowed to dry out, the sulfur dioxide can actually damage the delicate wool fibers, making them brittle. The dampness of the cloth is essential, as it helps the gas to be absorbed and react more effectively. It's a fine balance, a piece of ancient chemistry learned through generations of trial and error. Asterisk, you stand back, watching the ghostly tent. The only sign of the powerful reaction happening within is the occasional wisp of blue smoke that manages to escape through a gap in the folds. It's a quiet, almost eerie process after the loud, chaotic stomping of the fulling vats. One of the ongoing debates among historians is just how white these togas really were. Ancient authors like Pliny the Elder wrote of the brilliant candor of the toga candida, worn by men seeking political office, which was made even whiter with chalk. But for a standard toga virilis like yours, the goal was a pure, unassisted whiteness achieved through sulfur. It likely wasn't the sterile, blue-white of a modern chemically bleached fabric, but a brilliant, warm, chalky white that would have stood in stunning contrast to the colorful tunics and earthy tones of the Roman street. After what seems like an hour, the smoke inside begins to thin as the sulfur burns itself out. The master fuller, judging the time with an instinct born of experience, gives a nod. The workers return, and carefully, as if unveiling a statue, they lift the cloth from the frame. The transformation is stunning. The fabric that was a creamy, pale yellow is now a brilliant, dazzling white. It seems to almost glow in the sunlight, the whitest white you have ever seen. The stench of sulfur still clings to it, a sharp reminder of its chemical baptism. But the visual effect is undeniable. But the process isn't over. The cloth is now taken to a different part of the courtyard, where a series of long wooden beams are suspended high in the air between stone pillars. The workers climb ladders and, with great care, spread the toga out across these beams, securing it with wooden pins. It hangs there, a vast, white banner, against the brilliant blue of the Italian sky. This is the final stage of drying. The sun and the breeze will do the rest of the work. The sunlight provides a final, gentle bleaching effect, while the fresh air will slowly carry away the last of the residual sulfurous smell. You watch it for a while, the gentle breeze making the heavy fabric ripple and sway. It's a magnificent sight. It has been washed in filth, beaten by feet, and choked by fumes. And through it all, it has emerged, purified. Your father places a hand on your shoulder. Patience, he says. Perfection takes time. You will leave it here, in the care of the fuller, to bask in the sun and air for a day or two. When you return, it will be ready for the final press, the last step before it can truly be called a toga. A few days later, you return to the fulana. The air in the courtyard is still thick with the usual symphony of smells. But as you approach the workshop, you can tell that your garment's journey is nearing its end. The master fuller greets you with a proud grin and leads you toward the back of the main building, to an area you hadn't seen before. This is the finishing room, a space dedicated to the final, crucial touches that separate a mere piece of cloth from a luxury garment. Your toga is no longer hanging in the sun. It has been brought inside and is now laid out, perfectly flat, on a massive, smooth, wooden table. The fabric is dry now, and the harsh chemical smell of sulfur has been replaced by a clean, almost ozonic scent, like laundry dried in a fresh breeze. The whiteness is still astonishing, a pure, chalky white that seems to absorb and soften the light in the room. You run your hand over the surface. The fulling and bleaching process has left the wool with a slightly fuzzy texture, a soft nap of raised fibers. While pleasant to the touch, this isn't the desired final look. A high-status toga was expected to have a smooth, almost glossy finish, a subtle sheen that would catch the light as the wearer moved. To achieve this, the fuller points to a worker at the other end of the room. He is meticulously brushing a smaller piece of cloth with a tool made from the spiky, dried head of a thistle plant, specifically the teasel. This process, known as napping, gently raises all the loose fibers on the surface of the wool. Once raised, these fibers will be trimmed to a perfectly uniform length. The fuller explains that, for a garment of your toga's quality, this will be done with a pair of extremely sharp iron shears, a delicate task requiring a very steady hand. It's like giving the fabric a perfect, microscopic haircut. But the most important piece of equipment in this room is the press. At the far end of the workshop stands a colossal contraption made of heavy wooden beams. It's a screw press, a relatively sophisticated piece of Roman technology, and it looks like a medieval torture device. Two massive upright beams are connected by a thick crosspiece at the top, through which a huge wooden screw, at least a foot in diameter, is threaded. At the bottom of the screw is a flat, heavy wooden platen. By turning the screw with long levers, incredible pressure could be applied to anything placed beneath it. Asterisk the Fooler explains the process. Your toga will be carefully and precisely folded, misted with a little water to make it pliable, and perhaps interleaved with sheets of smooth parchment. Then, the entire stack will be placed in the press. The workers will turn the screw, lowering the heavy platen until the cloth is compressed under immense pressure. It will be left like that for a day or more. This final pressing is what gives the toga its crisp, almost architectural quality. It smooths the surface, imparts that subtle, desirable sheen, and sets the initial creases that'll serve as a guide for the complex art of draping. Asterisk. One of the lesser-known facts about Roman textiles is the sheer importance of this final finish. It was the difference between a commoner's rough-spun tunic and a senator's lustrous toga. The gloss was a visible signal of the time, expense, and skilled labor that had been invested in the garment. It was a non-verbal declaration of status. Historians still puzzle over some of the finer details. Did they use any additives, like a starch made from wheat, to aid the pressing process? It's possible, but the primary tools were simply pressure, time, and expertise. Asterisk you watch as two of the Fooler's assistants begin the delicate task of folding your toga. It's not a simple matter of folding it in half. They work with a precision that suggests this is a well-rehearsed procedure. The semicircular shape of the cloth makes it awkward, but they handle it with an expert's touch, creating long, straight folds, ensuring there are no wrinkles or bunching. The fabric is so large that it takes up the entire table, once folded into a neat, surprisingly compact rectangle. They carry it over to the press and slide it carefully into position on the base. Asterisk. The workers then insert two long wooden levers into the holes at the top of the giant screw. With a deep, coordinated grunt, they begin to walk in a circle, pushing the levers before them. The screw groans in protest as it slowly turns, lowering the platen onto the stack of white wool. Asterisk, kriek. The sound is the slow, powerful voice of immense force being applied. They continue to turn it, the wood groaning and popping under the strain, until the screw will turn no further. The toga is now held under a pressure equivalent to several tons. Asterisk, and there it will sit. The final, silent stage of its creation. It is being transformed not by chemicals, or by motion, but by immense, static force. The pressure is compacting the very fibers of the wool, forcing them to lie flat and smooth against one another, locking in the perfect finish. Come back tomorrow, the master fuller says, wiping his hands on his tunic. Then, it will be ready. Then, it will be a toga. Asterisk, leaving the workshop. You feel a sense of finality. You have followed this garment from a sheep on a hill to a thread on a spindle, from a wall of yarn on a loom to a stinking vat, and now to this silent, powerful press. Every step has been a revelation. You had thought a toga was just a piece of clothing. You now understand it is a piece of industrial art, a product of immense labor, and the embodiment of a complex and fascinating process. Tomorrow, you will finally claim it. The next day, the air feels different. There's a crispness to it, a sense of an ending and a beginning all at once. When you return to the Falonica with your father, the master fuller is waiting. There is a look of genuine pride on his face, the look of an artist ready to unveil his masterpiece. He leads you to the press, where the workers are already turning the great screw in the opposite direction. The wood groans a different tune, this time a sound of release rather than strain. The heavy platen slowly rises, revealing the compressed stack of white wool beneath. Asterisk, the workers carefully slide the toga out from the press. As they unfold it, it seems to exhale, the fabric whispering as it is opened to its full, magnificent size. The change is subtle but profound. The surface of the wool is no longer fuzzy, but incredibly smooth. with a low, elegant sheen that catches the light. The pressing has given it a crispness, a certain architectural integrity it lacked before. It hangs from the worker's hands, not like a limp blanket, but like a piece of sculpture. It is, without a doubt, perfect. Asterisk, your father inspects the garment with a discerning eye, running his fingers over the smooth surface, checking the uniformity of the color. He nods, a slow, satisfied gesture. He turns to the fuller and pays him. The clink of silver coins, a final, formal acknowledgement of a job well done. The transaction feels significant, the culmination of a long and complex supply chain. The money flows from your father, to the fuller, to the weaver, to the spinner, to the shepherd, a silver thread connecting them all. Asterisk, 2 servants have come with you this time, and they carefully fold the finished toga into a large, flat basket, protecting it from the dust and grime of the Roman streets. Carrying it feels like transporting a precious artifact. You are not taking it home to your domus, however. A garment of this significance, your very first toga virilis, is not something you simply buy and put in a closet. The tradition is to wear it for the first time on a special occasion, often marked by a formal procession to the heart of the city. Asterisk, but first, there is a small matter of commerce. While your father commissioned the creation of the toga directly, many Romans would acquire theirs from a merchant. To complete your immersive experience, your father decides a symbolic purchase is in order. You are guided not to the grand, marble-faced shops of the Via Sacra, but to the Suburra, Rome's famously crowded, noisy, and vibrant working-class neighborhood. It's a labyrinth of narrow, winding streets, a world away from the stately order of the Forum. Asterisk, the air here is even thicker, with smells and sounds. Food vendors shout from stalls, selling grilled sausages that sizzle and pop over charcoal braziers. The aroma of garlic, roasting meat, and cheap wine hangs heavy in the air. Children dart through the crowds, shouting and laughing. It's Rome at its most chaotic and alive. Your father leads you to a small shop, its front open to the street, from which bolts of cloth of every quality and color are spilling out. Asterisk, the shopkeeper, a man whose quick eyes seem to take in everything at once, spots your father's expensive tunic and the carefully carried basket. He immediately adopts an air of professional courtesy, ushering you into the relative quiet of his small, cluttered shop. This is where the world of textiles is monetized. Your father engages in the timeless ritual of haggling. It's a performance, a verbal dance. He points out a microscopic, almost invisible flaw in the weave. The shopkeeper sighs dramatically, lamenting the ruinous cost of raw materials. Your father counters with a low offer. The shopkeeper clutches his chest as if wounded. Asterisk, you watch, amused. This is not a genuine negotiation. Your toga is already paid for, but a reenactment of a daily Roman ritual. One interesting fact about Roman commerce is that prices were rarely fixed. Everything was subject to negotiation, from a loaf of bread to a bolt of silk from the east. Skill in haggling was as important as having coin in your purse. Eventually, a price is agreed upon. Your father pays the symbolic amount, and the toga is officially transactionally yours. Asterisk, leaving the Suburra, you head for the one place in Rome where a toga truly belongs, the Forum. As you walk, the character of the city begins to change. The narrow, chaotic streets of the Suburra give way to wider, more orderly avenues. The towering, rickety insulae are replaced by the grand, stone-faced public buildings and temples that are the heart of the empire. The crowds here are different too. There are senators in their striped togas, lawyers hurrying to the basilica, priests in their formal regalia, and everywhere, men in the simple, elegant white of the toga virilis. You are about to join their ranks. Asterisk, this journey through the city is a key part of the experience. It's a physical transition from the private world of home and commerce to the public world of civic life. The toga is a public garment, and its meaning is only truly activated when it is worn in the public sphere. Historians often emphasize the performative nature of Roman life. How you dressed, how you walked, how you presented yourself in the forum, it was all a kind of theater. And the toga was the essential costume for any leading man. Asterisk. You finally arrive at the edge of the Roman Forum. It opens up before you, a vast, sprawling plaza of marble and stone, bustling with the energy of 1,000 different lives converging in one place. The sheer scale of it is breathtaking. The towering columns of the Temple of Saturn, the grand arches, the bustling market stalls. The Senate House in the distance, it's the epicenter of the known world. And somewhere in this grand, chaotic, magnificent space, you will cease to be a boy. You will put on your toga and become a man. But first, you have to figure out how to wear the thing. You don't attempt the Herculean task of donning the toga in the middle of the crowded forum. That would be like trying to fold a fitted sheet in a hurricane. A public spectacle of frustration. Instead, your father leads you to a quiet, secluded portico behind one of the grand basilicas. Here, away from the jostling crowds, the final, crucial step will take place. One of the servants who has been discreetly following you steps forward. He is an older man named Lucius, who has been with your family since before you were born. His official role is a bit vague, but his unofficial role is master of practicalities. And there is nothing in Rome more impractical than a toga. Asterisk. Lucius directs the other servant to open the basket. They lift the toga out, and for the first time, you see it unfurled to its full, intimidating size. It's not a rectangle. It's a huge semicircle of heavy, crisp, white wool. Holding it up, it looks less like a piece of clothing and more like a mainsail for a small ship. It's roughly 18 feet long along its straight edge and about 7 feet deep at its widest point. How this colossal piece of fabric is supposed to gracefully drape around a human body is a mystery of physics you cannot begin to solve. Asterisk. You stand there, wearing only your simple linen tunica, the basic undergarment worn by all Romans. Lucius smiles, a patient, seen-it-all-before kind of smile. The first time is always the most difficult, young master, he says. The secret is not to fight it. The wool knows where it wants to go. This sounds suspiciously like mystical nonsense, but you are in no position to argue. Asterisk. The process begins. Lucius takes one end of the toga's long, straight edge. He drapes it over your left shoulder, from front to back, letting the corner hang down to about your feet. This is the anchor point. Already, you can feel the surprising weight of the fabric on your shoulder. This is not a light, breezy garment. It has a real, substantial presence. Asterisk. Next, Lucius takes the vast bulk of the remaining fabric and wraps it around your back, bringing it under your right arm. This is where it gets tricky. The sheer amount of cloth is overwhelming. He has to gather it and pleat it as he goes, ensuring it doesn't just become a formless, lumpy mess. His hands are a blur of practiced, precise movements, creating a series of elegant, overlapping folds. The historical accuracy of these folds is a subject of endless debate among scholars. Sculptures show Roman togas with incredibly complex, almost stylized drapery. Recreating this is an art form. Some historians even theorize that lead weights were secretly sewn into the hems to help the toga hang correctly, though definitive evidence is scarce. Asterisk. With the fabric now gathered at your right side, Lucius brings it across the front of your body, from your right hip up toward your left shoulder again. This creates the main diagonal band of cloth that is the toga's most recognizable feature. He then throws the remaining length of the toga back over your left shoulder, so it hangs down your back. Your right arm is left free, while your left arm is mostly covered, pinned to your side by the weight of the drapery. You feel encased asterisk, but it's not finished. There is now a large, pouch-like fold of fabric at your waist, created by pulling up the drapery that hangs in front. This is the sinus, a sort of built-in pocket. though not a very secure one. It was used for carrying small, unimportant items. For anything valuable, a Roman would have a small purse, or simply tie things into a corner of his tunic. Lucius adjusts this pouch, making it hang in a graceful curve. Finally. He creates the umbo, a sort of secondary, decorative fold that is pulled over the main diagonal band at your shoulder, like a cloth hood. This final touch adds another layer of complexity and elegance to the drape. After a final series of tugs, pats, and adjustments, Lucius steps back to admire his work. You stand there, swaddled in what feels like an entire sheep's worth of wool. The weight is significant, a constant, heavy pressure on your left shoulder. Moving is a challenge. Your left arm is essentially immobilized. If you want to use it, you have to awkwardly hoist the entire front section of the toga. Walking requires a slow, deliberate, and dignified gait. If you try to hurry, the carefully arranged folds will shift and begin to unravel. Now you understand why Roman senators in films always look so stately and composed. They have no choice. The toga enforces a certain gravitas upon its wearer. It's a garment that disciplines the body, demanding poise and self-control. You take a few tentative steps. It feels profoundly strange, like wearing a weighted blanket and a formal suit at the same time. The wool is a bit scratchy against the skin of your neck and right arm, a constant, tactile reminder of its presence. Your father circles you, his expression a mixture of pride and amusement. "It is not a garment for running," he says simply. "It is a garment for standing, for being seen." And that is the core truth of the toga. It was never designed for comfort or practicality. It was designed for display. Its sheer impracticality was the whole point. It was a visible sign that the wearer did not need to perform manual labor. He was a man of leisure, of politics, of law citizen. Your dazzlingly white, perfectly draped, and utterly cumbersome toga is a declaration that you belong to the ruling class of the most powerful empire in the world. As you stand there, getting used to the weight and the restriction, you feel a subtle shift inside you. You are no longer just a boy in a tunic. You are a Roman in a toga. And now, it's time to show the world. Your father gives you a nod of approval. Lucius gives one last, proprietary pat to a fold on your shoulder. It is time. You take a deep breath, the wool fabric feeling heavy and formal, and you step out from the relative privacy of the portico into the full, glorious chaos of the Roman Forum. The experience is immediately different. Before, you were just another face in the crowd, a boy in a simple tunic, anonymous and unremarkable. Now, wearing this magnificent, gleaming white toga, you are a signal. People notice you. Their eyes might only flicker over you for a moment, but there is a new awareness, a subtle acknowledgement. You are no longer invisible. You are a participant. The toga is your ticket of admission to the great public theater of Roman life. You begin to walk. Your pace necessarily slow and measured. Your sandals make a soft, rhythmic slap on the wide, sun-warmed paving stones of the forum floor. You have to be conscious of your every movement, how you hold your shoulders, how you swing your free right arm, how you navigate the uneven stones. It all contributes to how the toga hangs, how you present yourself to the world. It's surprisingly mentally taxing, like learning a new and very subtle dance. The forum is a sensory overload. The air hums with the murmur of 1,000 conversations in a dozen different languages. You hear the sharp, authoritative tones of a lawyer arguing a case in the open-air basilica. Julia to your right, his voice echoing under its high roof. You see a group of senators, their togas distinguished by a broad purple stripe, engaged in a heated but low-voiced discussion near the steps of the Curia, the Senate House. Their faces are grim, their gestures animated. The fate of legions and provinces could be decided in that quiet conversation. Asterisk, everywhere you look, there is a story. A messenger, his tunic stained with the dust of the road, hurries toward the Palatine Hill, clutching a scroll that could contain news from the farthest corners of the empire. A priest from the Temple of Vesta, his head covered, walks with a serene, otherworldly calm through the throngs of people. A money changer sits at his small table, the Mensa, his scales glinting in the sun as he weighs a stack of silver This is the beating heart of Rome, a place of commerce, law, religion, and politics, all happening at once, all layered on top of each other. Asterisk, your father acts as your guide, pointing out the landmarks as if you are seeing them for the first time, and, in a way, you are. You are now seeing them not as a child sees a playground, but as a citizen sees the stage of his life. He points to the rostra, the great speaker's platform decorated with the prows of captured enemy warships. That is where Cicero and Mark Antony spoke, he says, where words have changed the course of our history. You look at the raised platform and try to imagine the power of a single voice holding the tension of the thousands gathered here. Asterisk. You walk along the Via Sacra, the main street that cuts through the Forum. You pass by shops selling luxury goods, fine pottery, imported spices, silk from the mysterious lands of the Far East. The sheer concentration of wealth and power is dizzying. A lesser-known detail of the Forum is that it wasn't all grand temples and monuments. Tucked away were also workshops, food stalls, and even schools. It was a living, working space, not just a museum of glorious architecture. Asterisk, as you stroll, you notice the subtle language of the toga. It isn't just about being white. The way a man wears his toga says something about him. An older, respected senator wears his with a comfortable, almost careless elegance, the folds sitting on his body as if they were a second skin. A young, ambitious politician wears his with a rigid, perfect precision, every fold crisp and sharp, a sign of his meticulous nature. A foppish poet wears his artfully disheveled, perhaps made of an unusually soft wool, a statement of his bohemian disregard for convention. You become aware that you are now part of this silent conversation, and you find yourself unconsciously straightening your shoulders, trying to project an air of quiet confidence. Asterisk. One of the great historical questions is how Romans truly felt about their national garment. Was it a beloved symbol of their identity, or a tiresome, oppressive obligation? The writings of authors like Martial and Juvenal are filled with complaints about the toga's expense, its weight, and its sheer inconvenience. Yet, for all the grumbling, they continued to wear it. It was a symbol too powerful to abandon. It was the uniform of the conqueror, the administrator, the citizen. It was, in a very real sense, the fabric of the Republic and the Empire. Asterisk. You and your father stopped near the Temple of Saturn, its towering Ionic columns casting long shadows across the plaza. You stand there for a moment in silence, just watching the river of humanity flow past. You feel the weight of the wool on your shoulder, the warmth of the sun on your face, the hum of the city in your ears. You have done it? You have followed the thread from the back of a sheep to this exact spot. You have passed through the smelly, industrial heart of the city's workshops and emerged, clean and white, in its political and spiritual center. You are wearing your toga. You are in the Forum. You are, at last, a man of Rome. You spend the next few hours in a state of heightened awareness, a careful choreography of walking and standing still. The initial novelty of wearing the toga begins to fade, replaced by a more practical and slightly irritating reality. The garment is, to put it mildly, high-mate. Every time you shift your weight or turn too quickly, you feel the delicate balance of the folds begin to slip. You find yourself constantly making small, subtle adjustments, little hoist of the left shoulder, a gentle pat to smooth the sinus pouch, trying to maintain the dignified drape. Lucius so expertly created. Asterisk. Your father decides to meet with a business associate, a merchant who deals in olive oil from Hispania. They find a relatively quiet spot on the steps of the Basilica Amelia to conduct their conversation. You are expected to stand by, a silent and respectable presence, and so you stand, and stand, and stand. The sun beats down, and you quickly learn another truth about the toga. It is incredibly warm. The thick, dense wool, so perfect for a cool morning, becomes a personal sauna in the midday heat. A trickle of sweat runs down your back, and you have a desperate urge to scratch an itch under the heavy drapery on your left shoulder, but you can't without completely disarranging your entire outfit. Asterisk life in the forum, you quickly realize, does not pause for your sartorial elegance. A group of children, chasing a stray dog, darts past you, and you have to sidestep quickly to avoid a collision. The movement, though small, causes a significant fold in the back to come undone, and you can feel a long tail of fabric now trailing near the ground. You try to discreetly tuck it back in, but your movements are clumsy and constrained. The perfect architectural form is beginning to crumble. Asterisk then comes the inevitable. Your father concludes his business, and you decide to get a cool drink from a nearby street vendor. He is selling pasca, a popular Roman drink made from vinegar mixed with water, surprisingly refreshing and a staple for soldiers and common folk. As you are taking a careful sip from the ceramic cup, a senator, walking backwards while pontificating to his entourage, bumps into you. It's not a hard bump, but it's enough to make you stumble. A splash of the reddish-brown pasca escapes your cup and lands directly on the pristine white wool covering your chest. Asterisk the stain is small, no bigger than a coin, but on the vast, unbroken field of white, it looks like a gaping wound. It's a dark, ugly blotch. Your heart sinks. All that work, the jacket-wearing sheep, the pungent vats, the sulphurous smoke, the immense press-all of it undone by a clumsy senator and a splash of sour wine. Your father sees it and gives a weary, knowing smile. "Welcome to the reality of the toga," he says. "It is a canvas for the accidents of life." Asterisk, this is a fundamental, often overlooked aspect of the toga. For all its symbolism of purity and status, it was worn in a world that was dusty, dirty, and crowded. The streets were filthy. The food could be greasy. The public spaces were teeming with people. Keeping a toga white was not a one-time achievement. It was a constant, ongoing battle against entropy. A historical fact, often lost in the gleaming marble statues, is that most togas, by the end of a single day's wear, were probably far from pristine. Asterisk as the afternoon wears on, your toga accumulates more evidence of its journey. The hem, which was so carefully adjusted to be just above your ankles, has picked up a noticeable layer of dust and grime from the forum floor, turning it a dingy gray. You brushed against a column and now have a faint, powdery white streak of marble dust on your side. A drop of oil from a pastry you ate has left a small, translucent spot near the sinus. Your perfect, gleaming symbol of manhood is starting to look a bit lived-in. Asterisk. You begin to notice the togas of the men around you with a more critical eye. You see the faint yellowing at the neckline of one man's toga, perhaps from sweat. You see the subtle stain on the elbow of another's, where he must have leaned against something. You see the frayed hem of a toga that has clearly seen better days. The pristine whiteness you admired just hours ago now seems like a temporary state, a fleeting moment of perfection that begins to decay the instant it enters the real world. Asterisk one of the great debates among historians is just how often a Roman would have his toga laundered. Given the expense and harshness of the fulling process, it couldn't have been a daily occurrence. It was likely a cycle of wearing, spot cleaning, brushing, and airing, punctuated by a full-scale trip to the fuller only when absolutely necessary. The toga was not a disposable garment. It was a significant investment meant to last for years. This meant accepting a certain level of imperfection. Asterisk as the sun begins to dip lower in the sky. casting long golden shadows across the forum. You feel a sense of relief. The official duties of the day are done. The performance is over. You are tired, hot, and your beautiful toga is now a catalog of minor mishaps. It is no longer a perfect, abstract symbol. It is your garment, marked by your day. And as you look at the small Posca stain, a feeling of resignation, almost affection, settles in. It is a memory, a story, and it is a reminder that your toga's journey is not over. It is, in fact, circular. The walk home is different from the proud procession of the morning. The sun is setting behind the Capitoline Hill, painting the sky in strokes of orange and purple. The golden light is forgiving, softening the hard edges of the city and hiding the worst of the day's grime on your toga. But you can feel it. The crispness is gone, replaced by a weary limpness. The fabric is heavier now, burdened by dust and the day's humidity. You are no longer performing for the forum. You are just a tired young man, encumbered by a very large and slightly stained piece of wool, wanting to get home. Your pace is quicker now, less concerned with maintaining a perfect, stately drape, and more focused on the simple mechanics of walking without tripping over your own clothes. The carefully constructed folds have loosened into a more relaxed, almost sloppy arrangement. The umbo has slipped, the sinus has sagged. You are experiencing what every Roman man must have experienced at the end of a long day, toga fatigue. It's a profound sense of relief at the prospect of taking the thing off. You don't go straight back to your domus asterisk. Your father directs you on a familiar path, back toward the district of the artisans, back toward the unmistakable pungent aroma of the Follonica. The workshop is quieter now. The day's main work is done. Most of the workers have gone home, and only the master fuller and a few apprentices remain, cleaning up and preparing for the next day. The fuller sees you arrive, and his eyes immediately go to your toga. He walks over, a professional, appraising his handiwork after its first encounter with the enemy, the real world. He inspects the dusty hem, the small oil spot, and the dark, reddish stain from the posca. He doesn't look disappointed or surprised. He simply nods, a wry smile on his face. A good day in the forum, I see, he says. The first of many. This is the other side of his business. He is not just a creator of new, perfect garments. He is a restorer, a cleaner, a man who fights a constant war against the dirt and stains of Roman life. His workshop is both the beginning and the end of the toga's life cycle. A lesser-known detail of Roman society is the existence of clothing rental businesses, for those who couldn't afford their own toga, or for politicians who needed an impossibly white toga candida for their campaigns. They could rent one. These garments would have seen the inside of a Follonica countless times. With the help of Lucius, you begin the awkward process of unwrapping yourself. It's much less elegant than the draping. You unwind the heavy layers of cloth, the fabric sighing as it is released from its constrained folds. Finally, the last section is lifted from your left shoulder, and you are free. You stand there in just your tunic, the feeling of lightness almost dizzying. You stretch your arms, rolling your left shoulder, reveling in the simple freedom of movement. You had no idea how much the toga restricted you until it was gone. You hand the massive pile of cloth to the fuller. It looks like a crumpled, defeated ghost of the magnificent garment from this morning. He and an apprentice spread it out on a large, clean table, the stains and dust now clearly visible under the lamplight. The dust is simple, the fuller says, running a hand over the hem. A good brushing will remove most of it. The oil is more difficult, but fuller's earth should draw it out. And the pot. He leans in, sniffing the stain. Vinegar. It will need a careful spot treatment, perhaps with a little soapwort. He explains that a full rescouring and rebleaching is not necessary. Not yet. That harsh process would only be used when the toga became truly dingy. For now, a targeted, professional cleaning is all that's required. His workshop is equipped for this, with special tools, brushes made of pig bristles, and a variety of cleaning agents derived from plants and minerals. Historians are still piecing together the full arsenal of Roman laundry techniques, but it was a surprisingly sophisticated science, a folk chemistry of stain removal. Asterisk, you watch as the apprentice takes a stiff brush and begins to work on the dusty hem. His strokes firm but careful. A cloud of fine gray dust rises from the fabric. It's a strangely intimate moment. You are watching your own day, your own movements through the city, being brushed away. The dirt of the Forum, the dust of the Via Sacraria, is all being methodically erased, preparing the Toga to be a blank slate once more. Asterisk, your father pays the fuller for the cleaning service. The cost of maintaining a Toga, you realize, is not insignificant. It's an ongoing expense, a subscription to respectability. You leave the Toga there, in the capable, calloused hands of the man who will restore its purity. The journey has come full circle. The cloth that started its journey in this pungent, steamy place has returned, soiled, to be renewed. Asterisk, walking home through the twilight, clad only in your comfortable tunic. You feel a profound sense of lightness, both physical and metaphorical. The weight of citizenship, which you have carried on your shoulder all day, has been lifted for the night. You understand now that the Toga is not something you are, but something you wear. It is a role you put on in the morning and take off at night. And tomorrow, after it has been cleaned and pressed once more, you will be ready to put it on again.